Good afternoon. My name is Obi Egbuna Jr. I'm the U.S. correspondent to Zimbabwe's national newspaper and the external relations officer of the Zimbabwe-Cuba Friendship Association. Based on what was requested of me, I'll be summarizing this panel up.
Hi, my name is Ian Bellina. I'm a blockchain investor. I also create content in the space and also the CEO of tokenmetrics.com.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gerard Newkirk. I'm the founder and CEO of KWH Coin. We are a renewable energy services platform that focuses on delivering energy as a service for rural, remote, and isolated populations around the world. Gerard Newkirk.
So we can begin. What are your thoughts on the topic? Is the fourth industrial revolution a revolution, or is it colonization 4.0? We'll start with you, Gerard.
Yes, I think it has an opportunity to be a revolution. I think that we have a merging or a convergence of multiple technologies. Most importantly, that will give us the ability to empower vulnerable populations that haven't had access before. Now, with blockchain technology, for example, there is a choice whether it be used as something more cosmetic as exclusively cryptocurrency, or we dig deeper into applications that will have social impact. But I think that with the fourth industrial revolution, there is an opportunity to build sustainable infrastructure for technology to be used as a liberation or as an empowerment vehicle.
Can you please restate the question again? Sorry.
So the question was, what are your thoughts on the fourth industrial revolution? Is it disruption, a technological disruption, or is it a code word for colonization?
Very good question. I think that's tough to say. I mean, I went to the African Blockchain Conference, and that was also the theme there, right? The theme was how to get African economies in the next revolution, right? We all know how blockchain is supposedly one of the biggest innovations since the internet itself, right? But how do we really get African countries a part of that? And one of the things that was asked, and people were kind of asking this as the actual question, right? The African countries or African economies have to adapt, right? It's basically adapt or die, right? They cannot get left behind in this revolution, right? Because the question at that conference was, if African countries or economies don't adapt, they'll end up being what's served for dinner on the table during this revolution, right? And I think that's definitely, I definitely believe that stance. I think it's basically adapt or die, right? This revolution, the blockchain revolution specifically, gives economies all over the world, but more importantly in developing countries, the chance to be part of the next frontier of the global economy, right? Despite the setbacks of where they began, right? For example, being able to, for people in a country, being able to own Bitcoin and not have the volatile local cryptocurrency, the volatile local currency, being able to escape inflation and other risks, being able to have really their own money, their own income, their own part of the global economy, right? So I think the barrier to entry has been shifted, and almost kind of like how the world has gotten flatter, right, from a technological standpoint. I think other countries, for example, Binance launching their first crypto to fiat exchange in Uganda, right? I mean, Binance was traveling all over the world, being kicked out by almost every country, from Japan, China, and the developing countries said, hey, come home, come here, right? So the fact that African countries can be leaders in something like that, right, I think definitely shows that they have a chance to be part of this revolution, right? They just kind of have to be very strategic with it. And I think they have the advantage in the sense that they're more nimble, right? For example, here in the US, right, there's so much red tape to do things, right? But the way things happened with Binance coming to Uganda CZ was a speaker at the African Blockchain Conference the year before that, right? And the organizer told me they got CZ, because the president of Uganda, Museveni, was there at the conference as well as a speaker. They got the president of Uganda and CZ in the same room, had a meeting. Next thing you know, Binance Fiat Exchange in Uganda, right? So the fact that people who are building the next disruptive ideas have easier access to getting the presidents, politicians, regulators in Africa than in maybe in their local country or other parts of the world, I think is definitely an advantage they can leverage, right? And best proven with the Binance coming to Uganda example.
All right. Okay. I'm sorry. I'll have to cut you guys short for a few minutes to let the Congresswoman speak. I would like to introduce Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett from the U.S. Virgin Islands to make her remarks because she has another engagement. So I beg your pardon. Thank you. A round of applause.
Thank you for your indulgence in allowing me to speak now to you all. Just so you're aware of why I've probably been asked to be here, I am the representative from the U.S. Virgin Islands, but I also sit on the Committee on Agriculture, which actually has within it as a subcommittee commodities and commodities exchange, which are also, we are some of the regulators and authorizers for the industry that you all are discussing right now. There's right now in Congress a bit of discussion between who has authority over which portions, Financial Services Committee, Ways and Means, which is the tax branch of Congress, as well as the Committee on Agriculture. There's quite a bit of overlap, and as we're understanding and as this industry is expanding, we're all trying to stay on top of it. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to come and speak with you all on what I believe is a really important topic and how this emerging technology has the potential to revolutionize the way our global economy works. So I believe it can be a revolutionary mechanism, particularly for people of color. If we're not careful or if we're asleep at the wheel, it will be a colonizer of us in that respect. So that's my response to the question that you asked. I want to give a special thank you to Sinclair Skinner for the invitation to come and speak. Blockchain has garnered attention as a breakthrough technology with the potential to improve how we conduct business. Initially popularized by Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency uses, companies and governments are seeking novel ways to apply the technology to increase global output. But despite public intrigue and excitement about the technology, questions still surround what it is, what it does, and how it can be used, and its trade-offs, and how it might assist in the economic growth and wealth creation of communities and people of color. Congress has taken an interest in blockchain, with several members introducing legislation in support of the technology, and there's actually the formation of a blockchain task force in Congress. Representatives Warren Davidson of Ohio, Tom Emmer of Minnesota, and Josh Gottheimer of New Jersey are three of the task force members. Davidson has twice introduced the Token Taxonomy Act to Congress, which is a bill aimed at exempting cryptocurrencies from securities law and providing digital assets with a clearer legal standing in the United States. Congressman Emmer has also pushed for legislation that would exempt cryptocurrency startups from state-level regulations, allowing them to develop blockchain platforms and services without having to register as a money transmission business in the states they conduct business. For hundreds of years now, communities of color have been kept from profiting from innovation and new technology. The Industrial Revolution, transportation innovations such as steamboats and railroads, and most recently, the Internet. We cannot allow this innovation to not be utilized for our own growth. I truly believe that if this technology is harnessed properly, we, people of color, have the potential to right many of history's wrongs. But how can we use this innovative technology for our communities? For far too long, African Americans have been denied business loans, financing, and other resources due to the color of our skin. Blockchain, in many respects, has the ability to provide anonymous and secure transactional guarantees through a democratized trust that will allow minorities and disenfranchised communities the opportunity to invest and bank without discrimination, thus revolutionizing our communities and spurring minority innovation for self-sustainability. Examples of business owners like Dawn Dixon, who uses her influence to engage with blockchain community, inform people who are interested in the technology, and fundraise for her own company, Popcom, an automated retail technology company. Popcom develops software and Internet of Things connected hardware for self-service retail, including vending machines, digital kiosks used for to dispense products and perform transactions. I also believe, and it's my hope in working in Congress, to regulatory opportunities such as sandboxes should be incorporated in this technology. Regulatory sandboxes involve temporary relaxations or adjustments of regulatory requirements to provide a safe space for startups or established companies to test new technology-based financial services in a live environment for a limited time without having to undergo a full authorization and licensing process. It also allows regulators and innovators to work constructively together when the alternative would be hostile and stifled innovation. Regulatory sandboxes introduce the potential to change the nature of the relationship between regulators like myself and operators and innovators working in crypto and blockchain industries to support new entrants, to support people of color, to find out where there are blocks and mechanisms that would keep us from entering this field. Representing the Virgin Islands, I see blockchain and sandbox potential game changers for our agricultural sector. I think that's me. Local banks and how resources are distributed. For example, I represent the Virgin Islands. We have tax incentive laws and mechanisms to allow startups, incubator companies, accelerators to be in our space. These are areas where people of color and communities of color can actually create environments for individuals like yourselves and others who are interested in this space to be in communities of color, right? Remain in those communities to use the technology to assist others outside of the community. To be in places like Shaw, to be in places like St. Croix, or be in other countries where they are an influx of people of color, while at the same time advancing global initiatives, I think can be supported by this technology. We need more events, however, like this event here. We need larger blockchain black summits to educate our communities on this emerging technology. Being at Howard University is a great mechanism for doing that. It would be awesome to also have this in our high schools so that our young people can hear about it. In community colleges, where there are young black people who are working and in school at the same time, who really can take hold of this as a means to pay for that education while they're moving forward. There's an old saying that if you want to hide something from a black person, put it in a book. Let's open up the book to a chapter which reads Black Blockchain so that we can educate and motivate the next generation to succeed. I was again fascinated when preparing this speech to learn of all the benefits blockchain can bring to the table, and I remain encouraged that through summits and programs like this, you will be those that take us all and put African Americans on a level playing field, not just in technology, but in economic growth and wealth creation for our next generation. Thank you all so much.
A round of applause. Thank you very much, Congresswoman. All right, all right. Okay, picking up on our conversation, I want to build on Congresswoman's last point of education. Obi, you've been building Pan-African organizations around community organization, I believe focusing on young children. How can we get them ready for the industrial revolution, if it is at all a revolution? What are your thoughts?
First of all, I'm honored to be here, but it's like with anything else, it's a question of narrative. We use the word revolution. Are we sure that's what people want? And the reason that I say that is, and it comes back to definitions. The definition we like to use when engaging our children is the one used by Osajefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. In his book, Consciencism, he says revolution is not only a revolt against an old order, but a contest for a new order. Many people can tell you whether social media is their platform, whether a political campaign is their platform, whether a protest or march is their platform, what they're fighting against, what are they fighting for. I say that because we're going through a process now where those who talk tough about Trump are the same ones who were being bold about Bush, but between 2008 and 2016, I'm speaking specifically about the community I'm a product of, you were either on hibernation or under hypnosis. And I say that to say because when you look at this whole question of wealth, I'll just use, and this will be the last one I use in terms of definitions because all resistance must have direction. Frantz Fanon told us a long time ago that people come to understand that wealth is not the fruit of labor, but the result of organized, protected robbery. And those who colonized our people and captured our people have to do everything they can to preserve what they have stolen and what they continue to rape and plunder. So anytime that people are talking, and when we have young people talking about the accumulation of wealth, not the accumulation of wealth, but the accumulating wealth, and then the number one objective becomes preserving wealth, what about what Dr. King took a bullet from the FBI and CIA dealing with the redistribution of wealth? So when we come to talk about dealing with this on the front line, dealing with this in the context of struggle, dealing with this in the context of history, what models are we using? We are here 4 days after Africa lost one of its giants, Robert Gabriel Mugabe, former president of the Republic of Zimbabwe. And I was thrilled to know that there was a moment of silence for him yesterday. But at the same time, you were at the Congressional Black Caucus, or they're infused into this process. Every member of the Congressional Black Caucus in 2001 voted in favor of sanctions on Zimbabwe for reclaiming their land from 4,500 Rhodesian British commercial farmers who got it because of colonialism. So how does John Conyers come, look in our face, talk about reparations, and his interpretation of reparations, he has no problem voting in favor of sanctions, seek to stifle a country that is reclaiming what is inherently theirs. So in the context of definitions, in the context of direction, that's the way we look at this.
So speaking about sort of the reparations concept, Ian, we had a great pre-summit discussion. Yes. I would like you to share basically your thoughts. So we rehash them basically.
So, I mean, I'm definitely for the reparations, right? But as, I guess I kind of have a different perspective. As an investor or entrepreneur, I find it very unlikely or improbable that African Americans or black people will get reparations from America, right? Because if it's something that would have happened or was likely to happen, it would have happened a long time ago, right? And I don't like holding or waiting for something, right? I kind of like to take things into my own hands, take action myself, right? So rather than waiting for America to ever give reparations, I think we have to really just educate how to build our own wealth, our own income. That's kind of how I built my own channel, right? Initially, it was just educating, and specifically, initially, my audience was targeting minorities, right? Minority men and women, young people, millennials, because I had so many other people say, hey, you're a young brother, very successful, how'd you do it, right? So I launched my channel as a way to kind of give back and share my story, how I did it, right? How I kind of navigated the system, right? And kind of reached to where I was. And then the channel kind of blew up, and then people of other races and other backgrounds joined my channel, right? But initially it was just educating people around business, finance, and making money, right? And kind of telling my story, right? Because I've been able to become now self-employed, give up a nice job in the corporate world, where even then, right, I was kind of going up against the system in a way, right? I was always kind of fighting just to stay afloat, right? Because it definitely was not easy, right? It definitely was not easy, but I felt like I couldn't really trust the system. I had to find my own way, my own path, right? And it definitely took lots of trials and tribulations and errors and failures. But I think to where I am today, it definitely has been worth it, right? But it kind of came from me not expecting the system, which was not designed to really have me succeed, help me.
All right. So, Gerard, I mean, one of the spaces that black people have not been playing in traditionally is the energy space. And this is something I'm also involved with back home in Kenya. So could you just talk a bit about why there needs to be an energy revolution in Africa, and not just Africa, wherever black people live, the Caribbean, where you're from, and so on?
Absolutely, because when we talk about energy revolution, the majority of wealth or the system of colonialism was based on the petroleum dollar, right? It was based on the ability of Anglo-American powers to control the distribution of oil, which is what powered every economy in the world. When I started KWH Coin, the premise of that was we needed to first develop systems to, first of all, use renewable energy. So now you're no longer dependent on foreign oil or petroleum or the petroleum or petrodollar system, and then connect that with technology so that it can be used as a currency. Right now, the dollar is just that. It's not backed by anything. It's essentially backed by the ability of the United States and Anglo-American powers to enforce the petrodollar by force. So conceptually, we designed KWH Coin to focus on areas that were rural, remote, Africa, the islands. I'm from Wilmington, North Carolina. There's a very strong, very large rural population there, where their energy costs are 40% of their income. So this is the wealth extraction that's happening, and typically energy is the source of that. So in order for us to truly turn and become in a position to develop or to generate wealth, we have to first of all address, acknowledge, and develop solutions that are causing wealth extraction. So that's why Africa, the islands, rural areas are our focus with KWH Coin, and then using cryptocurrency as a liberation technology to connect a currency directly to energy that you can exchange and create value.
All right. Okay. As we close the panel, we'll start with Obi. Give your final remarks, or your final thoughts on the topic.
Well, in terms of all of this, for example, if you're talking about reparations, once again, it's your exposure to it. Are you talking about what the Africans in the Communist Party called for in 1928, where they talked about 5 states in the South, and then that was something that was echoed by the Nation of Islam, then was the foundation for the Provisional Government of the Republic of New Africa, New African People's Organization? And the reason that I say that is because, once again, anything that we deal with, you have to focus on the amputated narrative of the African experience, or the attempt to amputate the narrative of the African experience. So, because remember, you're 18 years removed from the United Nations Conference on Racism, Xenophobia, and Other Related Intolerances. At that conference, the Bush administration did not want reparations to be part of the discussion. That's the same year they imposed sanctions on Zimbabwe. And it was in South Africa, and if you know anything about South Africa, you know that till this very day, 83% of the land is still in the hands of those who had it during colonialism. And when you look at Africa in the context of it's from a regional perspective, Northern Africa is the most isolated region because of the Islamic and Arab presence, Western Africa at the governmental level is the most corrupt part of Africa. Eastern Africa is the most chaotic part of Africa. Southern Africa is the most stable. Stable because the political parties who took power through struggle are still in power. And also from an agricultural standpoint, 67% of the workforce in all of Southern Africa, their work is connected to the agroeconomy. At a time where Zimbabwe can humbly let you know that 68% of the agricultural development in that country is being done by women. So when you look at it in the context of, you have to pull Cuba into the equation, because all of the time when we talk about generating wealth, are we connecting it to our resistance? At a time where someone like George Soros can stand before us and claim to be bankrolling all of the genuine efforts that are supposed to represent genuine resistance, how can that be? So he can give Malcolm X grassroots movement hush money. He can give Black Lives Matter hush money. He can give organizations based in the United States hush money, and at the same time be financing 300 civil society groups in Zimbabwe to overthrow the government of Zimbabwe. You talk about America, what is your definition of America? What gave the Democrats and Republicans the right to claim that they are America? And when you look at that, and when you talk about reparations, how does Raul Castro telling Barack Obama on his high-profile field trip where he claimed he was going there to loosen the blockade? Imagine the neck of a lynching victim being loosened. Imagine the handcuffs fascist police put around the wrist of our children being loosened. So how do you loosen a blockade? But that being said, that was nothing but the follow-up of Ted Turner telling Bill Clinton, General Electric telling Bill Clinton 20 years ago, the economic advantages of loosening the blockade on Cuba. And then if you want to take it back to Zimbabwe, someone like Jimmy Carter running around parading to be the savior of the Palestinian people, but as a result of the money from the man who owns Virgin Airlines, who's trying to bring about regime change in Zimbabwe. Or you have the Philip Morris and R.J. Reynolds company still scheming to take over the tobacco industry in Zimbabwe. So it's very important that people who are looking for business opportunities, investment opportunities, understand the role of solidarity in this process, so you make sure that your money does not become blood money. Lastly, in relationship to that, we talk about this as Africans at a time where 4 children die every hour on the African continent, and we have 15 people who are billionaires. At a time where our young people think being a mascot of a Fortune 500 company has anything to do with self-determination. So when you see these things going on, I remember being in Zimbabwe and riding in a combi, the equivalent of the old 1987 Toyota minivans. And they were saying to me, they heard my accent, so they said, "Where are you from?" I said, "Nigeria," because on my father's side, that's where I'm from. And they said, "Were you here with Ali Dangote, the richest African on the continent of Africa?" I said, "I have nothing to do with him." And they said, "So what are you here doing?" I said, "I'm in the information business." And they were like, investment. I said, "No, I'm involved in the type of information that makes it possible for someone like Dangote to feel comfortable coming to Zimbabwe when the United States tells them not to come, when Britain tells them not to come, when the Corporate Council on Africa tells them not to come." That's what we're dealing with here. So at a time where you saw the cyclone in Southern Africa in April earlier this year, and it lets you know that the United States Agency for International Development is more dangerous today than the CIA was at the height of the Cold War, because they use bribery against African governments. And there's no reason why we can't pool our wealth to deal with the humanitarian problems Africa had. I close with a recommended solution, a recommended project. I said I'm the External Relations Officer of the Zimbabwe-Cuba Friendship Association. 18 years ago, Kofi Annan, when he was the Secretary General of the United Nations, he called the late Comandante Fidel Castro, who, when you use America correctly, should be our favorite American president. Match up Roosevelt, Obama, Carter, your favorite liberals to him, they'll never measure up. But besides that, no, real quickly.
Real quick.
He said that if the resources were ever available, Cuba would send 4,000 HIV/AIDS doctors to the African continent, and they would remain in Africa until the HIV/AIDS crisis in Africa was eradicated. You saw them in the Bahamas. Why can't we finance Cuba's medical efforts in the Caribbean and Africa to show our appreciation for our people there? That's what, so I would say in terms of looking at how we pool our wealth, ensuring that it complements the most genuine resistance efforts we have to offer, that's the direction we need to be moving in. And if you feel that I'm speaking a foreign language to you based on the theme of that, you can blame that on Sinclair for making the theme reparations and revolution. Thank you very much.
All right, all right, all right, all right. Ian?
It's tough to follow that. I mean, I guess I could add my middle name is Mugabe, right? But yeah, I think he's.
Is it for you, Mugabe?
Yeah, for real. Well, the actual way is Mugabe, is how it's said, Mugabe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm lost too, bro. But I think reducing everything to its essence is which is what I like to do. The solution, and I kind of disagree with the sentiment earlier, the solution is decentralized. For example, we're working on a project in Sierra Leone where 80% of the population is off-grid. So if you have your house, a solar panel, our software, now you're empowered. You no longer need reparations. So I think we need to reduce those things to its essence, because staying in the bureaucratic structure is not going to foment a solution. I think our solutions are going to be more localized, and I think it's going to be driven by community efforts.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll just add to that. So I think to kind of share my take on things or recap, I don't think the system is really designed, and at least my perspective is I don't think the system is designed to help me, right? So I don't trust the system. I always know that I have to take things into my own hands. And that's why when I was even working in IBM or in the system, I knew that I had to really break away and become self-sufficient, right? And that's really what kind of my entire journey has been about, is becoming self-sufficient, self-employed, my own businesses, being an entrepreneur. Because I know the system, from whether colonialism, racism, what have you, it's not designed to have me at the top for long periods of time, right?
And we can't, and real quickly, just dealing with neo-colonialism. For example, this is the year of return. And Akufo-Addo is getting red carpet treatment in the diaspora. He is carrying out the agenda of the U.S. Africa Business Center, which is part of the Chamber of Commerce. They love us so much in Africa, they've now adopted an area. And he's benefiting from the work of others who he's in diametrical opposition to. He came out the womb a reactionary.
Finish the point, Obi.
No, that's my point, though. So my thing is, and so if Africans born in the diaspora are now going to go to Africa, and your communication with Africans on the continent are going to be in these following prepositions: cook my food, clean my toilet, drive me around. Who the hell is embracing of something like that and can look at themselves in the mirror and claim to be proud to be African?
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. I will just allow 2 questions. One from Zé, please. Yeah.
Greetings. Greetings. I'm hearing something about reparations. I heard the macro of internal reparations. When are we going to deal with a systematics, with a system? It appears to me that Bitcoin is more in reference to internal reparations, because if you plant a seed, you can go out and harvest that seed. You don't expect Cargill or Monsanto. Internal reparations. Why is there so much talk on external reparations when you want something done, you have to have a systematic inside? Let's put on hold external reparations, and let's work furiously with internal reparations, and the internal reparations that does not separate you from the African personality that is in a modern context and for the future.
All right. I'm sorry, we have to close it up. So a round of applause for this.
Thank you.